Imagine this, my eyes are actually going straight from my brain into the camera without first looking through a teleprompter in order to read what the hell I'm supposed to say. Imagine this, there's a phone in front of my mouth right now because I'm sending a voice memo. I love voice memos. I can talk all day long, weaving through the streets, just firing voice memos out with nary a worry. But you turn the camera on and it's a different thing. The fear, so we're treating it like a voice memo. In fact, this is a voice memo. This is a voice memo to a friend of mine. Imagine this. I just want to do a good job and I'm bad at it. Like, I haven't done this enough, so I'm bad at it and I want to do a good job, and then time just passes so quickly. So here's the deal. There's Doug, there's Min. Guess what? They have a kid. Guess what? They're already divorced. That's the new thing. Before they were moving apart, it was like Doug was crappy, he was driven, he was focused on A1 and trying to be the guy who made the robot smart. And then you're thinking about, like, they're struggling to stay together, and then, like, will they break up or won't they break up? And if they don't break up, then you have to keep them in a state of almost break, like, oh, we're struggling, this is hard for us, it's our dynamic. Or they do break up, and then now you have to find a reason to keep Min in, and she's one of the main characters, and you're like, how's that gonna work for the longevity? So you pre-break them up. We come into episode 1, they're not together, but they have a kid. And so they must be together some of the time. They have to maintain a relationship. This is something that I think can last a lot longer in terms of, like, the arc of a story. Doug remains, he's maybe the most the same. He's Nick Miller meets Pinky in the Brain. He's curmudgeonly. We're talking about, like, some serious divorced dad tropes right now. Like, he just really has nothing of his life together except for, like, literally his time in the lab. You know, he's, like, unshaven, unwashed, living in, it's, you know, he's not good he can't bring ladies back to the apartment. But Michael Scott effect, he's really good at the job. Like, he is very, very smart at being a scientist. He has made A1. And so we see he has this one area where he, like, functions as a person, where he is just good at it. Like, he shows expertise, where we see that he's capable, so that he's not just one thing. He's bad at everything but this, and he is trying with his daughter. Remember, they have a kid. Yeah, he doesn't, like, hate his kid. He doesn't not care about his kid, but he's not good at it. It's a real, like, trying your best, but your best isn't good enough, and you probably owe this child better than what your current best is. But when we meet him, certainly he's not trying to make his best better enough. Does that make sense? Okay, so then you got Min, and she used to be a chef. I think now she also science person in some degree, because he's so science. How would they have met if they weren't both science? Is sort of where my head's at. I need to do what I hate to do, which is research. I need to, like, figure out more specifically what Doug does, field of focus, what kind of scientist Doug is, and what Min is/was, because I think that after the divorce, like, basically when we meet them, Min is now a high school science teacher. So she's had to go, I also am brilliant. In fact, I think she was involved. Like, I think A1 exists because of, at some point, Min and Doug's, they work together. Their combined genius produced this, and at a certain point, there was a fracture, and she goes, I need more out of life, probably post-kid, you know? And Doug goes, no, this project is everything to me. But I just think it's nice that, like, because A1, you know, also exists now, and there is this aspect where these two people who now are struggling to get along, whose relationship is on the rocks, that Min was instrumental in bringing A1 to life. And she can feel about that a bunch of different ways. It gives her more of a connection, potentially, if she wants to connect to it. It gives A1 a connection to her, whether she wants it or not, sort of as A1 may come to understand her role in his creation. That seems interesting. She's had to give that up, because whereas Doug was like, I have one priority, and it is sort of doing this great thing and getting the world to go, oh, Doug, you're such a smart guy. She's like, life is more than that. We have this kid now. This is my priority. And maybe I have other broader priorities than just this one single crazy drive that you've got. So I think that now she's like a high school science teacher. So like, she's stuck with these kids who don't want to pay attention, and like, you know, they're busy flirting and putting gum under the desk, and she's like, I am a genius, but she's doing it because I think it's so that she has her summers off to be with her daughter. This is my thought. That way her life lines up better with a kid. I think their daughter's like 8 years old. Roughly. So her life lines up better as a teacher with her daughter, and she's, you know, made that choice. Okay, so let's talk about the kid. I think she's fun as shit. I think she's like really mischievous. I think that she is very smart. I think she's a bit Machiavellian. I think that she's got like kind of the spark of madness and drive that Doug has. So they have this interesting thing in common. In fact, I think it's sort of like you're seeing someone show signs of, yeah, maybe they're gonna do a great thing, but she is perhaps, we might say, in danger of falling into the same trap that Doug has fallen into. Like if we project ourselves forward without sort of, I don't know, intervention feels too strong, but it's like she's got that drive and she's really trying to figure the world out. She's very sweet and funny, but like also very manipulative. And whereas A1 wants to discover things just for like the sake of discovering, like, wow, it feels so good to walk through the trees and look at the birds. That's an awful example. What an unfunny example. She's like, how does this work so that I can control it, manipulate it, so that I can bend it to my whims and will? But you know, also she's a sweet little girl who like falls down and scrapes her knee. A1 also hasn't changed a lot. A1 is innocent. I think a thing I've thought a lot about for A1's journey, so to speak, or just the direction of the character is like A1 starting as sort of like a Disney character, sort of his outlook being like, just follow your heart and do the best thing and be honest, etc. and everything will work out just fine. And sort of like A1 getting part marks for that, like A1, you know, often sort of being rewarded, being sort of an emotion, like the heart center of the story, but at the same time, A1 sort of getting emotionally beat up because I think this world is a little more complicated than that. I think maybe it's a lot more complicated than that. And so I think A1 gets a lot of half wins. Like, yeah, you were right, I should be honest or whatever, but also like this person who I was honest to fucking hates me now. And like, we're not just like hunky-dory hugs and kisses, it's like, actually, that cost me. And that the ending wasn't just a great big happy ending. It was like, oh, that was an emotionally fraught and complicated ending. And maybe, you know, I'm imagining a scenario where A1 like has told Doug to do the right thing and Doug does the right thing. And then like, it does not necessarily feel good to have done the right thing. And maybe it doesn't, you know, it doesn't feel good for A1 to be offering the advice and to see Doug then sort of devastated. Or A1 does the right thing and the person, you know, A1 doesn't get the response that A1 hopes for. It's not a full win. And sort of like a growing up in that sense, I thought like starting as someone who's like, never give up because if you haven't won yet, then it just means the story's not over. To being more someone who like, it's like, I really appreciate beautiful moments because those moments are beautiful. You know, like sort of the same kind of schmaltzy ethos, but like the second person knows that like really appreciate those moments because your story might not end happy. It's not guaranteed. It's not just, you're not in a Disney film. So take what you can get and really appreciate what you get, but like fucking take what you can get, baby. So that's the 4, right? That's like the family effectively. And I'm starting to see how I see how they fit together and don't fit together in like some fun and interesting ways. There's another character who I think Doug has like one longtime friend. Maybe he's a childhood friend. They're friends because they've been friends forever. Doug is not capable of making a new friend as an adult. That is not a skill he has. So his deal basically, I think, is that he's an alcoholic who he had a purpose, sort of similar to Doug. Not a similar purpose, not like also AI, but like he had a purpose and for whatever reason, and I don't know the specifics yet, but it's over for him. He feels, true or false, that like that purpose it's no longer possible. And maybe it is totally true. But he's like, without that, he's lost. He's even more lost than Doug. Doug at least does like 1.5 things well, 1 in a third things, the third being his, like weekends with his daughter. His friend is doing like half a thing well. Like I imagine, like the only place this guy feels like he matters or is important or feels pride is like at his softball game. He's a great hitter, great hand-eye on this guy. And so he won't show up to softball drunk because he really wants to like smash those dingers. And like getting MVP is really important to him. But otherwise, he's got like, I imagine he has like a kind of like, he's both super into Doug's accomplishments, but also like jealous because Doug hasn't failed. He sees Doug as a great success, so to speak, or at least on track to be one. And he sees himself as a great big failure. And so, he definitely wishes he was in, I don't think of Doug as like an enviable person, but his friend does. And so that feels like the core right now. I think there's more people to come. A big question for me is like, so there's two parts of Doug's life. There's out of the lab and there's in the lab. Okay, sidebar, I think like the end of, or the inciting incident of episode 1 is A1 goes home with Doug for the first time. So A1 in Doug's life has been only in the lab where A1 is undergoing this series of tests to see if the corporation that has funded this research believes that A1 is sentient. And sidebar on the sidebar, I think that like their definition of sentience is like, is A1 completely loyal to them? So there's going to be lots of put the green square on the glass tube instructions and some like logic puzzles, but also like philosophical questions, but they like work the company in there and sort of try and see if they can get A1 to like favor this corporation over people. It's loose. We're going to talk more about that later. But so A1 goes home with Doug, and A1 really wants to like experience like more of life and this sort of like, I don't know, the 3 rooms that he's been born and grown up in, so to speak. But Doug is barely experiencing life. So, A1 starts to push him there. Very shortly, A1 will meet Doug's family, as it were, and his inclusion in this group, Min's not going to like it. Their daughter's going to love it. It's going to start to create conflict. It's going to start to shift things. You know how TV works. But I think I just said that because I didn't know if you knew it. So now you do know it if you didn't know it. Cool? So that feels like it's taking shape. Out of the lab feels like it's taking shape. In the lab, for a while I was like, there's lots of people there. The lab has its own cast of characters, but there's gonna have to be, like if we wanna bring out of the lab people into the lab, Min, their daughter, his drunk friend, however much he factors in, you're gonna have to do a lot of tap dancing. A lot of like, bring your kid to work day, really? At this like not top secret, but like this, let's like this fancy corporate make us money research lab. So if it's hard to bring the outside life people in, and right now, because I know them, because they're the people that I know, they feel the most important. I think they're the most important. I think that like Doug's journey of growth is more out of the lab than in the lab, so to speak, because this is the part of his life that is completely atrophied. So I'm thinking more of about the lab being sort of like comically mysterious, like maybe he's got his own like weird entranceway. He sees no one. Maybe when they do the tests, it's like a disembodied voice over the PA who's talking to them and instructing A1 and instructing Doug, like a hyperbolic secrecy. So like maybe like rather than the lab having many characters in it, it's almost the lab itself is a character, but I need to work that out more. I need to work out sort of what these tests look like. I think that like the frustration that Doug is running up against is that because this project is funded by this big corporation, he needs their approval. He's done all this work, but all his work belongs to them. And so until they unveil A1 to the world, Doug can't do shit. And so he needs A1 to pass the test, but I think, there'll be lots of like, put the green block on the red square and like logic problems and maybe some morality stuff. But like at the crux of it, what they're trying to figure out is if A1 is completely loyal to them, the corporation, and if they can get A1 to do whatever they want him to do. And that's where the holdup is, so to speak, because A1 is too much of a free spirit, and exactly how that looks on the page, I don't know, but we can't know it all right now as much as we want to. Oh, I wish I knew it all right now. but I don't. So we weather the pain of not knowing and we move forward. So that's sort of what I feel like the lab is about. That's what the holdup is, so to speak. And Doug is trying to kind of mollify A1 in his... Mollify. I think Doug is kind of trying to bribe A1 by bringing him into the outside world to like play ball in the inside world. Maybe he's trying to teach him lessons on the outside world. Here's the thing. Now we're talking about forward. That was the past. We love to talk about the past because the future is scary. Going forward, I think that there's this thing that I've seen online because I go on the internet and I look at it and I read it and I watch it. I'm avant-garde, I know, but I do it, and if you're like me, avant-garde, you do it too. I see a lot of writers, probably like amateur writers like me, a lot of world build. We love the world build. World building is so safe because you're doing the work. I'm writing words down, but I don't know. I'm not committing to anything too hard. I'm like getting in my character's head a little bit, but I'm also like, oh, what does this lab look like? So here's what I gotta do. I need to do some research to like have a better grasp. I'm never gonna grasp it well, obviously. I'm dumb and scientists are smart. But like more specifically, what does Doug do? More specifically, what was Min's specialty? You know, like how were they complementary, etc. Because this is not gonna be a show where like the science is so real, wow, I'm not capable. But like just a nod at like something that sounds feasible, because it's all about squishy emotions. We just need to hide it behind a veneer, the thinnest veneer of like, this is what X kind of engineer does, and this is what X kind of coder does, and this is why their skills are complementary. So I need to look at that. A thing that I don't know about is like, so I'm thinking of these tests that the corporation is giving A1, and I don't really know how we test AI now to see if it's sentient. Obviously, don't know if you've seen the news, but AI, a pretty hot topic. Like, there was that guy from Google who was like, this AI is alive. I don't even know how we're testing anymore. The Turing test was a thing when I was growing up. What's that? Again, what is that? I forget. Is it just like if it can trick you into thinking it's a person? And like, how has smart people's thought evolved on like how we tell if an AI is sentient or not? Because I think the test, like, it might not come through all the time when I talk into my phone in order to be brave enough to talk to you. But like, this is a comedy, so it's not like they're giving it the real test they would in the real world. But I need a little bit of knowledge about like what the real test would look like to like make a fun version of that, to make a dumb, silly, fun version of that. And so those are the things I have to research. And I'm bad at researching because it's not work, because work is like putting words on page. And so when I am just using my writing time to like read articles on the internet, I feel bad. I feel like I am avoiding work and a failure. It gives room for the voices, and we need to keep them out. So, but I'm gonna do that because I need to know. It'll make me feel more confident. Also, I'm gonna write one scene. I'm just gonna write one scene with some of the characters, not all. Just to start. I can get really precious. I can be like, I need to have a full outline, etc. before I write the first draft. And this isn't a first draft. This is just like, you can sit down and write incoming opinion. You can sit down and write all this stuff about who the person is, but until you start to actually write scenes with them, you don't really know. It's not the same. And like tons of that stuff is gonna be wrong. And you're gonna find what's fun and what works and like the dynamics and like actually what the stakes are, maybe. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna find, I'm just not gonna stay in, we've done plenty of world build stuff. Time to take them out for a spin. And so that will be really painful because it's gonna suck and I'll hate it. And I'll be like, I am bad and this is bad. Can't wait. Let me tell you about a big win. I couldn't find a picture of a robotic arm with overalls, because why would I? And I tried to get Dolly to do it. Talk about an AI not being sentient. That f***ing AI would not do what I wanted, which was a robotic arm wearing overalls. Not a robot with feet and hands and an arm coming out its back with overalls. No, just arm, just overalls. And I couldn't figure out what to do. And then I was talking to literally my oldest friend. And you know what he's good at? Fucking drawing. He's really good at drawing. And I asked him, could you draw this for me? And he did it. And it's so little. And it's so embarrassing how much just seeing this made what the hell I'm doing feel just a little more real. So if I can offer any advice, it's do something little to make your project feel a little more real. Because when it's all in here or just in your room and when no one knows about it and no one else has any input in it, it's so easy for it to just feel utterly fake. I think I hit all my notes. I think I said everything I wanted to say. I think I need to eat lunch. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Keep up whatever the fuck you're doing. Good luck, babies. It's hard out here. I got a Patreon, blah, blah, blah. Like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You get it. You're pros at this.